Hey everyone, welcome to the Not a Lonely Coffee Break podcast. We are your hosts. I'm Maddie.
And I'm Megan. We're a podcast about coffee and work, but make it queer.
So, speaking of queer, Megan,
Hmm.
I recently went to the G Flip concert. Anyone who's a fan of G Flip, it was so much fun. And I think I've shared before, concerts are kind of hard for me since I've
Hmm.
been diagnosed with some mental health things, but that doesn't stop us. We still go out and have a good time. But I had never felt more seen. So G Flip does this thing in the beginning of their show when they come out,
Hmm.
and they do like house rules where like they are establishing ground rules to have fun that night. And so they go through some things. They of course say like we are LGBTQIA plus friendly. So if you don't have anything nice to say, please leave, essentially. They acknowledge allies that are in the room. And it is a heavy queer space because they are a queer person. And so naturally we gravitate towards people that
Hmm.
are part of our community. And then they said also, I want to give a shout out to people who, and a thank you to people who might be struggling with depression or anxiety or any other kind of challenge, because I realize that it's difficult sometimes to get out of bed and go and do things. And you made it here tonight to celebrate with
Oh,
us. And so I just want to acknowledge that this might be hard for you, but you made it. And I'm so happy that you're here. And I just had never felt so seen before because not too many people acknowledge that, like, it's hard for people with various mental health challenges or really any kind of just social anxiety
hmm.
or autism or anything like that, that it's hard to sometimes be in crowded spaces like that
Right.
with a lot of lights and sound. And
And screaming.
I was like, "Oh my gosh, like look at you creating this inclusive, safe space for people who aren't a hot mess and also people who
Hmm.
are a hot mess." I love it.
Yeah, that's actually really cool. Definitely been to a lot of concerts, but never have I ever gone to one where they're like, okay,
Mm.
look, this is going to be a concert for everybody, right?
Yeah.
We're going to try and make this as fun as possible for
Mhm.
everyone in attendance, which is really awesome. Because, yeah, those spaces, especially in these larger stadiums and stuff, they can get so loud and so,
Mhm.
I don't know. Yeah. So I feel you there. And it's so hard to have a good time when you're just overwhelmed, you know? So,
Right. Or
yeah.
like constantly worried, like, is someone going to notice if I am having a reaction to the lights that are going
Hmm.
off? Like, is someone gonna like judge me
Hmm.
if I have to put in my earplugs to help manage the sound a little bit?
Hmm.
And so I had never before been to a really any kind of event that was like music or something like that where they acknowledged that, like, yeah, it might be challenging for some people, but you still made it, and we're still gonna have a good time. And then they even established ground rules for, like, if anyone does faint or get sick or anything, here's how you notify me on stage so that we can stop the show and get that person the help that they might need. And I was just like, "Oh my gosh, how inclusive, how safe, how"
We're like,
like
we're not going to have any bad business
right.
tonight.
Like,
we're,
we are not
we're
here
going to
for
have fun.
nonsense, we are here for a good time. And also nobody pass out.
Awesome,
Uh,
though. That sounds like a really good time considering, we always need to find some spaces to just get out of the house and have a little bit of social
mhm,
time. I had a little bit of social time, just going to a couple small shopping places, meeting up with someone and just checking out for a second and just doing my own thing. So,
mhm.
yeah. Yeah, but it is hard because, man,
Yeah.
I hate leaving. I'm like I want to, but I'm
Mm.
like, "Ah, God, I
I mean,
don't
yeah,
want
there's something comforting about just being on your couch sometimes,
to."
for
Yeah.
sure.
Yeah. Can I do that every day without shame?
But,
That'd be great.
no, we had a really good time, and it was just so, like, I know we've talked a few times on the show about, like, queer joy and finding queer joy, and there was so much joy in that space. Everyone was just, like, having a good time
Mhm.
and enjoying the music, enjoying even just meeting new people. So we need more of that
I
for
agree.
sure.
I agree.
So speaking of inclusive fun events, we do have Pride Kelso coming up October 4th. So that's a Saturday. And Megan and I will be there. We are so excited. We had them on the show last time. We got to learn a little bit more about them and the if you missed that episode, make sure you go check it out. But you can also check out our social media pages for information about Pride Kelso and how you can join us on October 4th. It's not all day. It's kind of an early evening, late afternoon kind of day. So it's from I think 2 to 6. So you can come, hang out, and then go and do something else at the end of the day, or maybe grab brunch before you come.
Oh, yeah.
It is a free event, so if you're looking for something free that is gonna be family friendly, but also LGBTQ plus friendly, Pride Kelso is the place to be.
I'm super excited for it. We're gonna have all sorts of goodies, so please stop by our little table, and we'd love to meet you all.
Absolutely. Okay, so getting into the big conversation for
The
today.
meat and potatoes.
What I was really curious about, Megan. So, and I feel like I've talked to a few people about this before, but when was a time that, like, when you were at work, you felt like you were genuinely having fun? You're like, never.
No, I've had fun, and I'm thinking specifically to a time in which alcohol is not involved, right? So, because sometimes alcohol can make us a little wild in the sauce, but I'm thinking like a good, solid, like fun time with coworkers is like usually when we're doing something that has nothing to do with work. It's when I have a good
Yeah,
time.
yeah, but so you're touching on what I was hoping you would, which is that usually when we think about times that we had fun at work, it's not usually associated with, like, the tasks that we're doing for work. It's associated with the people that we work with, whether it's we're hanging out after work or even just we're having a good time in our workspace, like collaborating, sharing ideas, planning things. And that's the case for a lot of people I know is like, well, I wouldn't necessarily say my job is fun, but I do like my coworkers and I have fun with
Mm.
my coworkers. And so today we are going to talk about the importance of camaraderie in the workplace and why it matters, how it impacts people's performance, and we'll give you some tips on how you can strengthen the relationships with your coworkers.
Camaraderie, if you look at it, it's a really strange looking word. First off, I would like to know the root. Second
It is
off,
it's hard to pronounce.
yeah, it's like spelled several different ways. And I'm like, am I really looking at this correctly? But okay, camaraderie. You know, when I hear about camaraderie, it's like my friends, my colleagues, my mutual people. But what does it mean? I think it means for me is like to have a sense of like, I don't have the right word. I was gonna say groupism.
I mean, we can use groupism.
Root, Megan, from Megan. No,
Being together as a group.
yeah, like, but then also having a little bit of fun where things are just lighthearted and it's easy
Mhm.
to be in a group and just be you. That's what I kind of like what I imagine camaraderie means.
Yeah, I think for me, some of the similar things for sure. I think I do sometimes think of that idea of like getting along with someone. Don't ask me why. I just hear that word and I feel like getting along.
Must get along.
But yeah, like we need you to get along. That's just what I associate with it is like how am I getting along with people? Still
Mhm.
connected to people, of course. I'm not just like getting along in life. I'm getting along with people, not necessarily like my besties, but they're people that I can have a conversation with. We can work together. We can sometimes have fun together. But yeah, I think it's that idea of I guess also being like in a shared space with someone.
Okay.
Specific to
Yeah.
I feel like it's specific to work. I don't really hear that term outside of workplaces, I feel like.
No, not really. And it's not like a word that we use casually either. Like it's
Mm-mm.
usually in a specific setting. So the definition I found, I've got here, is mutual trust and friendship among people who spend a lot of time together.
So it's not even necessarily connected just to work.
Right. It's
It's
just
just
a mutual
people.
trust, a friendship among people who spend a lot of time together. So not necessarily though maybe people who come from the same community. It just seems
Mhm.
like a group of people. In this case, we can be a little random.
Mhm.
And it's really interesting how they say the mutual trust and friendship. So it does seem like there's a little bit of development there that takes place for us to create the camaraderie.
Yeah, yeah. Interesting. Gallup, we've talked about them before and some of the research they do connected to what people in the workplace say. And a lot of their data says that in people who have reported having that best friend at work, they're 7 times more likely to be engaged and more productive in the workplace. And best friend, like, we could even use that, like, in loose terms even, because like, sometimes you have, like, your best friend that's, like, a coworker, like my work bestie or my work spouse, but they may not necessarily be your bestie in, like, outside of work settings.
IRL. Yeah.
Yeah, but they're like a support system that you have within that workplace. So, I found that really interesting though that like getting along with your coworkers and building those maybe trusting relationships can contribute to productivity.
Wowzers. Yeah, I mean, it makes a lot of sense. I seem like whenever I am not getting along with my coworkers, then I just become real pissed off. And I'm just like looking at my work like,
Mhm,
screw this.
mhm,
I'm gonna go to a happier place than this, like I don't
mhm.
want to be here. So no, that makes sense. And especially because, I lost my work bestie when we were working together.
I know we had such a
And he was
great
so lovely.
camaraderie. We had such a great
Did we do
camaraderie.
best? What did our camaraderie look like?
Well, so I was actually thinking about that. And so you and I, before I started working at the place, you worked there before me, and we
Mhm,
knew like of each other and we had like met each other and stuff, but we didn't really like know each other. I had a stronger connection actually with our other coworker at the time.
mhm.
But I remember I think one of the first days that I was like, Megan and I are gonna be a perfect fit. It was early on, and do you remember when I was like, "I need help organizing my office," because it was a disaster, like, there
Was
was
that?
trash, like, I was literally having to clean it out while also working, and I was like, "I need to move my desk," but, like, the desk was a monstrosity and took up the size of the office. And it was, like, early in the morning, and I was like, "Megan, do you wanna come and help me move my desk?" And so together, you and I figured out how to move this desk that we had no business moving.
Yeah,
But I think from that point on, I don't know, we just clicked.
we just clicked. We built some trust. No,
Mhm.
I didn't break your toe while moving the desk, and a friendship came along because I was
Mhm.
distracting me from my work. Absolutely, I will
Yeah,
come help you. Absolutely.
yeah. Well, and we also had, like, gotten there technically before the day had started.
Yeah, we got
And so
there.
I was like, "Just before we start our day, let's just move this desk, get our little workout in."
That's fair. Yeah, I mean, it's really hard to be vulnerable for people and, like, to create that trust and stuff. So, like, something as simple as that, like, right? It's like just reaching out and just being like, "Hey, let's do this," right? And anyway,
Mhm.
yes, it was the start to a beautiful camaraderie
It
for sure.
was, it was. But then, yeah, we collaborated on, like, events, programs. I just think that we meshed.
We meshed, and we found reasons to communicate with each other beyond work and
Yep.
at work. Like, we did find I mean, we didn't talk about everything, you didn't know about
Mhm.
my deep, darkest secrets and stuff, but, like,
Mhm.
just enough to keep us going and to keep the mental juices flowing when working on stuff. Because
Mhm.
yeah, like, those relationships for me aren't very easy to make, and
Yeah.
especially in the workplace, I'm like I put my work hat on and
Mhm.
I turn off everything else for the most part, like, just trying to
Mhm.
keep my life private. Building that mutual trust with people is can be difficult for me. Gallup also highlights that workplaces with strong peer relationships see lower turnover and
What?
higher job satisfaction, of course, with better customer outcomes. I think, okay, that one could be bolded and outlined. Okay.
Mhm.
And, at the bottom line, like you want your customers to be happy. You want them to see that when they come in, they belong. Even if it's just you trying to sell a product or maybe a service or something, you want them to feel
Yeah.
welcome. And I
Well,
think having
they can sense, I think, when there is some sort of tension or
excellent.
friction in the team.
Hmm.
They can hear it in someone's voice, they can see it when they come through the door, whatever kind of setting you're in. Customers can pick up if you're not getting along with your coworkers.
Yeah, absolutely. So, and when I find that those times are happening, because I've definitely existed in those times where we're like, things are just not clicking. We come in, there's already something
Mhm.
nasty in the air, and, it just sets our day off wrong. I've been trying to find like different ways, okay, in these times, like, let's find something fun, a team building exercise and stuff. And like they say, team building, whatever. But it's like recently with like stress and like things like that, I'm like, hey guys, like we can do like one of those smash rooms or whatever where you
Oh,
wreck
yeah,
the room.
I think they call them rage rooms,
Thank
and,
you.
like,
Like,
you can literally pay to go in a room and destroy it.
yeah, like what better way to get rid of stress with coworkers is to go and scream and smash things.
Yeah, throw some plates.
Or like, they have these X-ray or like the arcades and stuff like that. Like all these little different things that we could like have fun with each other, not have to like talk about work, but like build some sort of relationship with each other in which that we're enforcing that, hey, if we hang out with each
Mhm.
other and we're enforcing that we're having a good time with each other, that our mind will be like, okay, I want to do this again and I want to do this again. And then it just continues to like create that stronger relationship between your team members, between you and a peer, whatever it might be. But yeah, we definitely have to find time to do that or your
Yeah.
team will definitely fall apart. And I've seen it happen firsthand. But we just want to come to work and we don't want to like think about what's going on in the outside world and stuff. There are ways, you just got to be creative to do it,
Yeah. No,
and
that's so
intentional.
yeah, that's so important because camaraderie, just like you're saying, it can help buffer stress. And when people aren't experiencing maybe as much stress or they feel like they're able to manage that stress a little bit with their coworkers, it can also boost their creativity, get their juices flowing a little bit back and forth, which can also just make those hard days a little bit more manageable. I know, Megan, when you and I were in the thick of it, us being able to take those little coffee breaks away, um, or even to, like, have lunch together or something, it
Mhm.
did help make those hard times a little bit more manageable. I mean, they were still hard,
Yeah.
but I felt like I had someone there with me, and we were kinda going through it together, helping each other manage it the best we could.
Yeah, absolutely.
But I think this is something really hard, especially when there's so many people out there that are in spaces where they may not feel safe to be even a little bit open, or they may not feel like it's safe to truly share any of their opinions about things. And so it's kind of like they may not know how to build camaraderie with people that they may be working with who they know have opposing viewpoints because it's going to happen, you guys. Like, we are going to interact with people with opposing views. We're going to work with people who don't agree on everything with us.
I agree because, building camaraderie is intentional, I think, right?
Mhm.
It's not going to blossom. So if you think you're going
Mhm.
to go into a workspace and just hope it's just going to happen, it isn't. Just as much as you're wanting your coworkers to reach out to you, you got to reach out to them. But, there are times that I'm just like, I'm going to stay in my little box where it's safe and don't,
Mhm.
if someone wants to come chat with me, that's fine. But I'm like, sometimes I honestly don't always offer the branch, but it doesn't mean that like this person needs to be your best friend, right? I have to reinforce myself and tell myself,
Mhm.
okay, gosh, this person's, maybe even like a personality trait or something that you're just like, that's not my perfect person. But essentially, this is your coworker. This is your colleague. This is someone that you need to team build with, not be your best friend. and
Mhm.
they don't need to know your deepest, darkest secrets.
Mhm.
Mm, but just trying to find ways to build a positive working relationship with them. They say science shows, no, Gallup. Our friend Gallup says 81% of people say work friends are highly valuable, and 78% say they provide positive mental health benefits. I can
Mhm.
agree on that. There
Mhm.
have been times I've been like so sick of where I'm working, or for whatever reason, whether I'm just not liking my position or I'm ticked off about something. And then my work friend comes up to me and just like sparks up conversation about, I don't know, talk walking a dog, or like walking their dog, or like just talking about like something else than what I'm like spiraling with. It does release like some sort of, I guess, maybe even endorphins. We're going to have to look into the science of that. There's probably some
Mhm.
like, we're social creatures and it
Yeah.
feels nice to be social with people
Mhm.
sometimes. So, again, just wanting to be intentional about that. Me, I try my best to be intentional, because if you leave me alone, I will. I will
Mhm.
be alone in a little cave.
Yeah.
So, what I'm thinking, so we can share, what are some things that we can do to build some positive working relationships for those that maybe aren't so good socially?
Yeah.
Maybe you find yourself socially awkward and you're like, I'm not even going to try because I'm going to
Mhm.
feel, weird about it. What do you think, Maddie?
Yeah, so I think that's a great question because I think just like you said earlier, like it has to be intentional. It's not just gonna like happen. People aren't just gonna be like, "Hey, we have camaraderie." We have to do some of the work to get there. So I think one thing that's helpful is starting small, right? You don't have to jump in and like tell them your life story. Obviously, it's helpful to learn and use your coworkers' names. So not like, "Hey, you." And they're like, "Really? We've been working together for 6 months and you still don't know my name?"
Oof.
Like, so you learn and use their names. And then ask about like any of those kind of smaller things, like ask about their weekend or help them celebrate any kind of small win that they've had at some point. Whether it's in their personal life or maybe it's a win that you experienced together, right? Maybe you guys were paired up on a project and you rocked it. And so you want to celebrate that a little bit. So start small. Also, you can create some rituals. So, one that Megan and I really like, coffee chats. Having like team coffee chats, taking those little breaks, whether it's in a break room or you're actually leaving to go grab a coffee, but coffee chats. So fun. Maybe even like some weekly shout outs where you're further acknowledging those wins as a team. Here are some really great things we've gotten done. Here, maybe even here's some specific teammates that have really showed up this week when it was a super stressful environment. Another fun option that I saw some people talking about online was having a shared playlist for the office. I
Mm.
know I really like to listen to music sometimes when I'm working, but I know not everybody shares the same music preferences as me. But maybe if we have a shared playlist, we can all put music that we enjoy together and then it like rotates and we're all kind of also getting to know, "Oh, I love this song. Who put this song on here?" And it just gives you opportunities to spark up some of those small chats again.
Cool. Yeah, that's a good one. I
Yeah.
like that one.
Collaborate intentionally. So that might mean that you are volunteering for kind of cross-functional types of projects. I know Megan, we wouldn't have used this word, but you and I actually did that a lot. I mean, we were forced to because we were such a small team. We were teams of 1. But there were some times that I know that we would intentionally see like, okay, where can this intersect so that it makes sense for both of us to work on it? Let's do this, let's do this. And that just additionally creates that bond. Don't be afraid to ask for feedback or
Oh, yeah.
help, right?
Mhm.
If you're struggling with something, maybe you have a teammate or a coworker that can offer you some tips, strategies, help, but collaboration can also help build that trust
Mhm.
with each other.
Yeah, and can I caveat on that as well?
Yeah,
But
absolutely.
'cause I totally agree with this one as well, 'cause it can be scary to ask for feedback, 'cause you're like,
Mhm.
"I don't want to bring them in, but I really
Mhm.
need help." And so, even if they don't offer you the guidance that you think you needed,
Mhm.
still use that as a way of, like, saying giving gratitude and just being like, "Thanks. I appreciate your feedback. I'm
Mhm.
probably gonna go this direction," but, like, even if they don't give you the feedback that you were thinking that they were gonna give you, I think that's
Mhm.
still a good way to, like, build a
Mhm.
relationship there.
Yeah, and sometimes it can just give you, like, another perspective even if it's if the feed you're, like, asking for that help or whatever, and you don't take that route, sometimes you can use that perspective to, like, brainstorm, I never thought about it like this, so let me see if I can make some adjustments to my existing plan based on your perspective that you gave me." So, yeah, just a great opportunity to just collaborate, again, build that trust. Another thing that's helpful, celebrating milestones, birthdays, work anniversaries, special project launches, celebrating those things because those are wins. And
Mhm.
also, who doesn't love a good birthday?
Yeah,
A little cake for the office,
for
or
sure.
we're ordering pizza.
And I've even seen recently, like, I've seen teams add it to the agenda. Like,
Mhm,
just like part of like their
mhm.
connection question in the morning or whatever it might be, just like, hey, real quick, let's just highlight this is you know, these are the birthday celebrations coming up.
Yeah.
Anybody else celebrating this week? So we just kind of like honor those that are around us. And like,
Mhm,
even though you don't want to talk about that you're getting a year older, we're still showing you some fun and some
mhm.
gratitude.
Yeah. Obviously, communication, be open in your communication. Communication doesn't just mean you talking, it also means you listening when other people are talking. You want to avoid gossip. Now I know Megan and we love a good tea session,
Yeah,
but avoid gossip. Speak with, not about your colleagues. If you are a person who likes to gossip, maybe you can be like me and talk about like celebrity gossip. Like, oh my gosh, did you see? Because we're not talking about a colleague at that point.
yeah,
And we are building that connection with our coworkers. So avoid gossip. And then lastly, I think acknowledging that everyone is human. People
I
make
like that.
mistakes. Maybe they say the wrong thing, but I think admitting when if you've made a mistake can go a long way in building trust.
Yeah, for sure. I like that ending.
Mhm.
Be human. It's really
Mhm.
easy to because we're not truly connected in ways with people as close as we are to our friends and family and things like that. So it's really easy not to is to lose that empathy,
Mhm.
and to and just remember like I'm gonna make a mistake, they're gonna make a mistake, as long as they're not like making mistakes and not being accountable.
Right,
But
yeah.
we can all like agree that, hey, things happen. We're gonna move on. Or maybe they're having a bad day and they didn't give you the
Mhm.
kind of like response that you wanted,
Mhm.
but be like, okay, tomorrow we'll try again tomorrow. We'll see how it goes,
Mhm. Mhm.
and just yeah, like just making sure that we're creating these healthy environments. Like it takes everybody to do it, right? Like
Yeah.
we can't expect just our manager to create a healthy environment. We can't just expect our one coworker who volunteered to do it. Like
Mhm.
if someone on the team is actually making an effort to try and connect everybody, take a moment to like maybe meet them in the middle and see what that might
Mhm.
look like for you. Like I said, adding to the, like that thing we talked about celebrating milestones, just make it a routine to do like healthy group exercises, like connection questions, organizing a space where you can relax, de-stress, and then maybe finding I like this word accountability, I like that one. Accountability. Someone that just keeps you like, hey, are you taking care, do you need some coffee? Want to go grab some water? Like, let's take a few minutes. Let's just chill out for a
Mhm.
second, and then we'll
Did you
get
eat
back to our
lunch
work.
today?
Did you eat lunch today? There are plenty of times recently, I've gotten a knock on my door. Hey, we're taking a walk to go get lunch. You want to come with? It's just simple. I don't say yes every time, but just getting the gesture
Mhm.
is like, hey, I'm glad. Thanks for looking out. Yes, I
Yeah.
am hungry. Let me go get my lunch.
Yeah.
Yeah, so just really taking some time and seeing what that looks like for you. But, because we don't always have spaces where like everybody's friends, right? I'm also
Mhm.
thinking about those workplaces where there is tension and maybe
Mhm.
you do find your boss is a bit toxic, but you're probably going to stay working there for a little bit. It doesn't mean that you can't, like, just creating safe spaces for yourself too, right?
Mhm.
Maybe you are
Mhm.
just that type of person that's like, all this friendship you talking about ain't for me. But, make sure that you're prioritizing those de-stress zones, identifying who maybe a couple of coworkers, maybe you don't talk to them every day. Find a couple that you're like, if I need something, I'm okay with reaching out to them.
Mhm.
Don't engage in controversial conversations. Sometimes we'd like to get fired up.
Mhm.
And maybe these conversations, like you said, gossiping about other people or maybe some triggering conversations, and you're just like, I need to get this out.
Yeah.
That's just gonna make you more stressed.
Mhm.
And it's not an environment for that type of conversation. So just kind of, instead of doing that, find an alternative, which is go to your accountability buddy or maybe going to that de-stress zone.
Yeah.
What I've decided for myself too is, when I am stressed at work, don't necessarily want to go talk to anybody, but I've gotten like this little like meditation book. It's a book. And
Mhm.
it just has like a 5-minute read. And I just read it. It gets my mind out of whatever the heck I'm working on. Focus on this for a second. I get a break and then I can get back into whatever I'm doing with a fresh mind.
Mhm.
So there are ways if you're not that type of social person, you're still kind of like trying to get out of your shell or maybe you've created some boundaries for yourself. It doesn't mean that you can't like create a safe space for yourself.
Absolutely. No, I love that. I think it's important to acknowledge like the kind of work environment you're in because that's going to impact how you build camaraderie, if it's even possible. I mean, Megan, you and I were in a terrible environment, and somehow you and I still managed to constantly grow a stronger and stronger working relationship that was positive. Even when we didn't agree on things, we were still able to maintain that trust and respect with one another because we had the camaraderie.
Mhm.
So I think that that is so important. You are my safe person. Yes. I think also it is helpful just to create like a space. Like you may not have your own office, but like if you have your own like cubicle section, are there little things that you can do that like bring you joy? Like hanging up certain pictures or just little artwork, like something that just brings you joy that kind of can be your safe space.
I think our viewers should know. When we're talking about this stuff, like I'm also trying to grow. I don't know how Maddie feels, but
Yeah,
I'm
yeah.
also growing as a person, as a team member, or just like how I can help others in these spaces where we can feel very isolated,
Mhm.
um, and different and maybe outcasted in some spaces, right?
Mm.
But, you know, it's not just built in a day, right? Me and Maddie did not become best friends that day. There were times I'm like, "Hi, Maddie," and we would,
Yeah.
go back and forth. It honestly, this relationship took years to
Yeah.
build, and it's not always cookie cutter and it's not always perfect. So, I think that if you take the time, you share the time, build that act of trust, share a laugh with each other, we can really invest with relationships and create teams that are more resilient. And maybe you can
Mhm.
find that coworker or that colleague where you're like, you know what, I don't feel so alone in this job
Yeah.
anymore. And I can
Mhm.
I can get through this and really find a little bit of joy in the work that I'm doing.
And no, I think that's so great. Like, what a great way to wrap up this, coffee chat. I think the relationship with your coworkers is probably one of the most important ones. Second to the relationship with yourself, of course.
Dur.
And so I think anything that you can do to help kind of boost that connection that you have with the people that you work with. You probably see them sometimes in some situations even more than you see even some of your partners. So trying to build some sort of positive engagement, working relationship with them, I think is vital. So thanks, Megan, for sharing this chat with me.
Yeah.
But we are all out of coffee, so that is our cue to wrap up. But thank you all for joining us today. Be sure to subscribe if you have not already.
You can connect with us on our socials and continue the conversation. We want to hear your questions. We have an email, notalonelycoffeebreak@gmail.com. Engage with us in the comments, or you can even just send us a DM and just say, hey, I want to be anonymous, but can you guys touch on this or maybe bring in a specialist on that? We want to hear you.
Absolutely. We love social media. You can find us on LinkedIn, Instagram, Threads, and Patreon. And of course, be sure to check out the show on YouTube, Spotify, and Apple to continue listening to us. Also, Meaghan, I want to give a special shout out to a fan. So I was doing a training recently and I had kind of like done my little intro and we took a break and someone calls me over and they're like, come here, come
Come
here.
get that.
And so I walk over and they're like, I need to ask you something, but it's not like on topic with what we're talking about today. And I was like, okay, what do you need to ask me? And she goes, do you have a podcast? And I go, what? I said, I do have a podcast. So I want to give a shout out to our fan, Kenny. She found us randomly because she was looking for a new podcast to listen to. She told me that her favorite episode so far has been the more historical episode where we dove into the life of Marsha P. Johnson. But it was so fun just chatting with her and getting to know her.
Oh, that's so exciting.
I probably fangirled more than she did about meeting her. So
You're like,
we
yes!
love connecting with people who are fans of the show. And I'm not going to lie, you guys, when we see you out in the wilds, we do get a little fangirly because we just get so excited to meet you. So, anyway, shout out. Thank you for listening. We hope that you all will continue joining us for Not a Lonely Coffee Break. Again, we are your hosts. I'm Maddie.
And I'm Meaghan.
Cheers, queer.
Cheers.